Oh, I love that intro. What the hell's going on with Kurt?
My stand was just slipping and sliding all over the place.
2 hours setting up, and when we start,
I know
his camera's all crazy.
That's
crazy.
It was funny as I was clicking off that sort of intro.
What
stuff,
in the world?
I noticed it like as I was clicking off, and I'm like, oh dang! If I had just noticed it a split second earlier, I wouldn't have clicked. But
it wouldn't have helped. Right. Technology is my Achilles heel.
It is true. It is true. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 15th episode of Toxic Masculinity. Dame Piglet. Hello. Dame Piglet and I connected outside of the show. She emailed me. We had a nice little chat. Yeah. It was good stuff. It's good stuff. She's a charming woman. That's awesome. All right. Merlin Wizard. Thank you so much for that little algorithm hit. Matt Mittens. Good to see you, Yasmin, Adriana, all of our people in the chat. Good to see you guys. Adam Pierard. All right. So we've got a crazy show today. We got a lot of stuff to go over. And because we had some technical difficulties, which sometimes happens with this show, nobody has read any of the articles except me. It's actually true. It's actually
read them all. What are you talking about?
Well,
did you?
Yeah.
I don't know how you would have. I posted most of them just now.
I'd kind of like to go off script for a second. I don't know if you're
yeah. Hit me, Jason. What's going on in the life of Jason Labrada?
Yeah. So today, I'm driving in my car and I live in Miami, so we have it's a very the population here is Cuban, Haitian, mix of Latin American countries, So I consider I consider Miami like you're crossing the border. So like Miami, you're crossing the border into a completely different country. It's like a Latin American country / Haitian country.
Can I just say, when I was in college, basically I never really had a problem with anybody in Miami, like racially or any kind of issue, except the Haitians. Haitians are kind of crazy. They're like really, they always want to fight. They're like super aggressive, and like they want to like mock you all the time. They're like real. I don't know. There's like this weird attitude with their culture where they're just always like trying to poke and prod at people and piss everybody off, and like I don't know, they just have a bad attitude. Not necessarily the men. I didn't really encounter any Haitian men, like Haitian women, because you'll find them like at bank tellers. Yeah, bank tellers or like any kind of service industry where you find a Haitian woman, she will be rude to you. It's like a weird cultural thing.
Careful, don't let Hollywood find out.
Well, I have a lot of Haitian friends. Like I have plenty of Haitian friends, and the Haitian friends that I have, they're very patriotic. They love America. They're grateful that they're here in the United States.
Well, maybe that was just my weird experience in when
No. You're right. Like you have that segment, of course. That exists, here too. But but the good thing about Miami, the good thing about Florida, we really don't have that racial divide. There's like no racial fighting or everybody pretty much kind of gets along.
Everybody's because it's a melting pot, so everybody kind of has to be cool.
It's weird, But I'm driving my car today, and Haiti right now is like a mess, right? The country's always been a mess, and the contradictions between Haiti and Dominican Republic are incredible. It's like two different places, but Haiti is like a mess now. It's a disaster. It's horrible. Like nobody wants to live there. Like
what is that island called, by the way? I forgot.
It's oh man, I know.
What I'm talking about?
Yeah. You're right.
I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Let's hope your Haitian friends don't watch
I can't believe I forgot. But I have a few Haitian friends that I sent them. They're watching. So maybe they can answer me. Maybe they can answer me this because I'm sure it annoys my friends too. But I'm driving my car.
Haitian friends in the chat. Let's get the answer.
I'm driving my car, and next I'm driving around the city, and I'm seeing all these people with Haitian flags all over on their car, and I'm like that's something you're gonna be proud of, like having the Haitian flag on your car. Like you escaped Haiti, you got here to this country. Like Haiti is like a mess, man. Like, why don't you have the United States flag? And I'm not picking on Haiti. It's a lot of people. Like, you see the Puerto Rican flag on these people. It's like, you're here, man. Why aren't you over there then? You know, if you love it so much, why aren't you over there? So I don't know. Today I was looking at that and I was like, man, this is I got to kind of bring this up today in the show and get your guys' point of view on that.
Oh,
I wouldn't mind if they had their flag and the American flag also, because I understand if you come here from another country, you still have that heritage in you, you know. But I mean, if I came from like Haiti, I would like no way show that flag, you know. But they're so like, I don't know, like you're here in the United States in this good country, you're not over there like in this war that they're having now and poverty. I don't know. I
think
can't
they should be ashamed of their country. Well, look, okay, just so everybody knows the geography, Haiti and the Dominican Republic share an island. They're two countries on the same island. The island is called Hispaniola.
Hold on. I know Puerto Rico is a territory, but I don't go around the United States with a Florida flag on my car. Like, come on.
The island is called Hispaniola. And
Hispaniola,
these two countries share the island. And there is actually a pretty strong border between the two because they don't like each other. Like Dominicans and Haitians, they don't necessarily get along particularly well. But Haitians will actually go to the Dominican Republic for work and stuff because they have a better economy. But anyway, let me give you a little bit of background on Haiti. Haiti was obviously it was like a big slave colony, basically, and the French controlled Haiti. And Haiti is the only place in the world where there was like a massive slave revolt that was so significant that the slaves actually took over the region.
Yeah.
And when that happened, the French left, basically, right? Because it wasn't like
let me correct you there. The French didn't leave; they slaughtered them. They killed every white person on that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Basically, I mean, the ones that survived obviously left, but this was not a situation where the slaves or the conquering army or the conquering party said, all right, we'll live in peace and harmony together, or you just go peacefully. Yeah, they brutally slaughtered all of the French people that were there that they could find. Obviously some French people were able to escape, but it was terrible, right? It was a terrible situation. It was a barbaric sort of situation. A lot of people look at that and go, oh, well, they were slaves, so they had the right to do that, whatever. Well, whatever you think the moral justification is, you can look up the history of it. What happened after, I think, is really telling because it became probably the most...
Why would you kill the people that know what to do as far as farming and all that stuff?
Of government and yeah. Well, that's exactly. The whole thing became a crap show after that. And it was probably the most mismanaged government in the history of the world. I mean, it was just awful, and it has been awful ever since. And it's never like rebounded. Haiti's never really had like a flourishing economy or anything like that. It's just been basically crap since the moment they revolted. And so it's just kind of an interesting... I can
understand, like because I have a Haitian friend, and she explained to me once, like after they did that to the whites and all that stuff, Europe, the white people never really wanted to deal with them anymore. So in a way, they kind of screwed themselves with that also. So she explained to me, and I like that makes sense. That makes sense.
By being so vicious. Yeah,
exactly.
But it's interesting to see what happens to, because you always wonder, right? Like, what if the slaves rose up in the South and, took over their plantations and all that kind of thing? It's not good. We even had, and I've talked about Liberia before on the show. We had a colony in Africa called Liberia, capital of which is called Monrovia, after James Monroe, who I believe established this colony. And we basically told American slaves after they were emancipated, look, if you would like to, we will give you land in Liberia. It'll be your land, America will not control it. It'll be yours. They went, okay. They went to Liberia, promptly enslaved the local population. And it has been a crap show there ever since as well.
Yep.
So, there's always this idea like, well, what if the slaves revolted? What if we just gave the slaves a particular region of the country, whatever? Well, both of those things have happened, and it ended up terrible. We have a super chat I just want to throw in here real quick. $2 from Hoff Power Concrete and Simplified Crawfish Company. He, of course, jumps in, as always, because he's our hero. And he says, for Kurt's tech guy. He needs it. He needs it. Trust me. But anyway, so that's the history of Haiti. But look, even though their history is a little bit crappy, I do think that people do have a kind of national pride. Nevertheless, I do think that people have a kind of cultural pride, regardless of, they always do. People will always have that. Like, actually, I think it was my birthday this year. I was in Hawaii alone because my only friend there refused to come see me. And I was given by my mother, and this is like such a weird thing because when I was like a little kid in high school, I had a little map. I had a little coat of arms, I guess it was, of Scotland. Right, there's this like lion rampant flag that the Scots use, as well as the St. Andrew's Cross, but it was the lion rampant flag I had when I was a kid. And I haven't been back in Oregon for a long time. I haven't touched base with the family in a long time. So as like a little token of like home, my mom sent me this Scotland flag. Where did Jason freeze on us? It looks like we might have lost Jason, guys. Yeah, there we go. He's gone. He'll come back. Anyway, my mother sent me this flag of Scotland. And the thing is, that was kind of touching. Like I missed home, and I missed the family, and I missed that like aspect of my cultural heritage. We were always going to like Highland games and stuff like that when I was a little kid in Oregon, and the thing is, I like that cultural heritage. I like that country, even though I've never been to Scotland. I want to go eventually. And it was nice to get that, even though I've never really put it up. I don't think it's really much of a decoration. And I don't think I'd put it up even if I was like back home in Oregon or anything like that. But it's nice to have it. But I certainly wouldn't fly it like on my car driving around in America. I know some people do that. They put on bumper stickers or whatever. But here's the thing about that. I don't think that most people consider an affiliation or an affection for a European country to in any way be in conflict with their loyalty to America, right? I don't think there's anybody who sees an Italian who's proud of their Italian heritage, and the immediate question is, do they prefer their Italian heritage or they prefer their American loyalty to this country, their citizenship here? Because I think most people, if they really preferred Europe or Italy or something like that, they might try to figure out a way to go move there. All right, here we go. We got Jason back. All right, he's back.
Today hasn't been my day. I've been having so many issues with everything today, all day.
It's true.
He's not out. He's might not be better because that. Chris was saying the show might be better because I'm angry. I'm so angry right now.
I was telling Kurt that my mother for my birthday sent me this Scottish flag, and I love this Scottish flag. But the thing is, I don't know if I would fly it like on my car. That seems a little bit weird. 1, 2, I don't think anybody really has a sense that if you flew a European flag, that there would be some kind of conflict between your loyalty to your, ancestry in Europe and your patriotism here in America. I think everybody understands that if you have like a Scottish flag on your car, or a British flag, or an Italian flag, or a French something.
How often do you see that in America, though?
You do sometimes, but again, it's like the two things will complement each other, right? Like my appreciation for, my cultural heritage in Germany is not in conflict with my patriotic
I disagree.
Perception of.
I got an issue with it all. I got an issue.
You got an issue with all of it. You wouldn't want anybody to have any kind of.
I understand your pride of your heritage and where you come from. But I mean, you live in America, man. I mean, come on, like You know, like I said, if you want to have like if you're like British or Italian, and you want to have that, but have some respect and also have the American flag as well, you know, next to it or something. You know, it's like my dad came here from Cuba.
I don't think there's a perception of a conflict with European flags or European like statements of like, you know, I like my Scottish heritage. I don't think anybody goes, oh, then they have a conflict between their American heritage and their Scottish heritage.
Well, it makes sense though that there might be a political connotation, especially in the current climate where we have like Israel, Palestine, we have Ukraine and Russia. So I mean, if you saw someone flying a Israeli flag or a Russian flag or one of those countries that's currently at war, you wouldn't think like, oh, they're from there. This is their cultural heritage. These people on college campuses, they're not from those countries, and they're like, oh, I'm American first, but I want to be culturally like supportive of these people entirely. No, it's a political statement. So I see
it's a political statement.
It's hard to separate the two.
The big problem is at protests over the last 10 years or so, people have been flying like Mexican flags, like Mexicans who are protesting for like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, things like that. They will fly these Mexican flags, and you'll see them interviewed, and they'll talk about how much they hate America. So then we have this association. We've been conditioned to go, okay, if you're flying a Mexican flag, that means your politics or your loyalty is divided. We don't have that with European flying a European flag or something like that. But I think Latin countries, I think people do think maybe a little bit more like, especially because there is a problem of, you know, illegal immigration. And a lot of people that come to America that may not respect America from that region. I know a lot of people from those regions do, in fact, respect America a lot, and they love being here, but some don't. Some don't respect America. And like you said, Jason, I think having both flags, like if I see somebody with both flags, I don't care. But if I see somebody with just the one flag, that bothers me. All right, I think we've lost Jason one more time. I don't know what the deal is. He says his internet's having problems today. CRX Joe just jumped in with a super chat. He says, just join the show. Well, it's good to see you there, CRX Joe. Appreciate the $10. Hopefully that'll help Jason with his internet in the near future. Anyway, what are you thinking, Kurt?
Well, like Venezuela, for example, I mean, their government collapsed because they're socialist. So if you're like, yeah, we love Venezuela, it kind of reminds me of that movie, the Hammer, with what's his face?
Corolla?
What's the guy? Corolla, yeah. I always keep telling Chris to listen to the Corolla podcast, but I do intermittently.
It's a great show. Great show.
It's a great show. He's a funny guy. But there's this, I think it was in the trailer or something, where the promos where they've got these guys, he's on their sofa with them, and they're cheering for Nicaragua because there's some sort of probably a soccer game or something. So they're like, Nicaragua, you know, like, and he's like, yeah, you guys seem to really like Nicaragua, you know, except for the part where you risked your lives to not live there anymore.
That's great.
So there's a little bit of that aspect to it. Like if you're an American and you have immigrants in this country, you want them to be pro-American because obviously this country is better than the country they came for living, because otherwise why would they be here? But I think that cultural, that's the thing too. I'm a big advocate for cultural pride. Like, I think it's something we should preserve. Like, it's the same way when you guys talk about, like, if I go to France, I want to experience French culture. Right. Well, if that doesn't exist, if the pride in that culture doesn't exist, then the culture will wither and die. It'll go away. Right. So to have that, to bring that with you, I think, to America is one of the beautiful things about being in America. To experience those cultures, you don't actually have to go anywhere, because everyone in the entire world wants to come to America. Unfortunately, now they want to come to America to sort of like, you know, make their money. And a lot of Americans want to sort of see America as a place to sort of like prepare for retirement. And they'll go to some other country that's nicer to live in. We need to break that cycle. We need to get away from that current sort of interpretation of America as a business, as a corporation, which unfortunately is what it's become and has been becoming for a number of years. Being a corporation back to being a culture of its own, a culture of like freedom and acceptance.
I think if people come to America,
be proud of your culture. Be proud of your culture, but respect the country that you live in.
Yeah, I think if people come to America outwardly, publicly, they should at least try to have some kind of sense of what it means to be American and to try to be American. I don't care if somebody's an accent, obviously, that's going to happen. But I do mind if they're not trying to learn English. I think that bothers me. I think it bothers a lot of people. And what's interesting is I think that if you come here and you come from another culture and you embrace American culture, I think that that's like one of the best things, one of the best kinds of lives that you can have, because you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's funny because I'll watch these reality shows and people will talk about their struggles of having, feel like they're torn between two different cultures. And it's like, what are you talking about? You get to grow up in two different cultures. That's awesome. Like, what are you talking? That's not a hurdle to be overcome. You're lucky to be able to be privy to both of those.
If the Japanese side of the culture was stronger in my family, I'd be bilingual. I'd have I could get like
that would be awesome.
I could easily get a job without any sort of like additional training or anything. So in a lot of ways, besides genetic diversity, which is supposedly has some scientific benefits to it, but I mean, like in terms of like cultural diversity, I think it really is kind of a plus in some ways. But again, everything is so politicized nowadays, and with
we pretend in America that if you're an immigrant or if you have some other cultural background other than white European, that's some kind of a disadvantage. We got to stop lying about that. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no disadvantage there.
And it's sort of like the opposite message is true as well, because there's a pervasive force in this country that's anti-American. You look at the college system. You look at all of these the Soros-funded people. All of these we've had decades, generations now of sort of like hating on our own culture and our own country.
Right.
And so if I was an immigrant and I was coming to America, like, oh yeah, America, land of the free, and all of the Native Americans, obviously, I don't mean like the guys with the feathers in their caps.
Native-born Americans, yeah.
Native-born Americans are just like, yeah, this country sucks. I'd be inclined to agree with them. I'd be like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be great. You're telling me it sucks? Okay, well, I'll go back to caring more about my own country. I'll just live here and try to make money. So
FL Sheepdog just jumped in with a little super chat. He says, "You must speak Hungarian to live in Hungary." And that's exactly right. I mean, that's how it should be, essentially. All right. Well, we could go on about this forever. Let's jump into the news. Even though our good buddy is gone, we're still gonna try this.
He's here in spirit because I'm dressed like someone standing in front of Home Depot. So we've got the Latin representation.
Were you able to look through this story? So this is there was a discharged U.S. Marine who recently was planning a mass shooting. This is pretty crazy.
That's the one I didn't read because it was paywalled. So you picked up.
Oh yeah, you couldn't read this. Of course you couldn't. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I subscribe to Epoch Times or Epic Times, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I've looked it up, and both pronunciations seem to be acceptable. I'll read a little bit of this. Yeah, federal prosecutors have charged a recently discharged U.S. Marine with making threats to attack white people in a mass shooting. It is obviously a black guy. On Monday, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey, announced the arrest of Joshua Cobb, 23, on a single-count indictment of transmitting an interstate threat over the internet. According to a complaint filed in the case, Mr. Cobb authored. I see the beginning of a word and I just assume. It's a bad habit of mine. So pulling many Bidens today. Authored a social media post on December 17, 2022, indicating his interest in inflicting mayhem on the white community. He said, "I want to cause mayhem on the white community. The reason I specifically want to target white people is because as a black male, they will never understand my struggles." Well, bro, you will not never understand my struggles, which he then goes on to say, I believe. He says the post author goes on to state he has already begun planning the attack, which he intended to carry out somewhere in New Jersey at some point in 2023, but he had not chosen an exact time. Yeah, he did say something at some point like, "I don't understand those the struggles of white people, but I don't care," is what he wrote. Which is, look, we are conditioning people to be racist against white people.
Absolutely.
I've tried to draw attention to this for a very long time. There's been many attacks, actually, in the United States. Black people attacking white people, and then trying to justify it by saying white people oppressed my people or whatever.
Now in San Francisco, they're actually going to stop releasing mugshots because they're worried that it's going to be like, it's going to promote racism.
I wish I had found that story. I saw that as well. Yeah. I wish I had grabbed that story and put it into the queue, because that is so horrible. But the funny thing is, right, this is an official announcement of something they've actually been doing sort of in the media for a long time, right? In like the 80s, there was all this criticism by civil rights groups that local news would basically report too often on the violent crime of black people. And the argument went that this was making white people more racist against black people, because we were getting this picture of black people as criminals. Well, it's obviously not true that all black people are criminals. And I don't think that most white people actually thought that. I don't know if everybody remembers the 80s, but I remember them pretty fondly in terms of the magnanimous nature that we had regarding race, right? We all loved Mr. T. We all loved Different Strokes. We all loved Bill Cosby, even though, like, obviously that's a bit of a shame nowadays.
Some people loved him non-consensually.
Essentially. Exactly. Yeah, precisely. But here's the thing about that. Like, it was a little bit propagandist if you think about it. Like, if you go back and you watch this old 80s stuff, there was this kind of attempt to be like, look at my buddy, the black guy. Isn't he just like everybody else? It's like black people and white people, we're all really the same.
But it was optimistic, positive propaganda. It was sort of like rose-colored glasses propaganda. It wasn't doomsayer, nihilistic propaganda where the black people are the chosen ones and the white people are the devil. It's just it was propaganda that actually had a basis in reality, because they were sort of like culturally white black people. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or whatever is perfect. Just like, did you hate Carlton? Was Carlton Uncle Tom? Were they bad people? Was Will Smith sort of like struggling to like, oh no, we got to get back to the real culture. You mean the culture you escaped because of the crime and the danger, which is why you went to live with those people in the first place? I mean, it had a basis in reality, and I guess that the propaganda we have now has a basis in nothing of the kind. So it's Look, really an issue of intent.
You kind of took the. I set it up, and then you took the point that I was going to make. But it was eloquent. It was eloquent. It was exactly what I was going to say.
Nobody ever accused me of that.
Yeah, no. It was like in the 80s. There was. I think the propaganda was okay, because even though it might not be true that every single black person was like Bill Cosby. Okay, we shouldn't use Bill Cosby as an example. Who can we use? It might not be true that every black person out there was like the kind, gentle, neighborly guy. There were gangbangers. There were these problems in the 80s, but there was a certain percentage of the population that were awesome people, and there were a certain percentage of the population that were awful, and you kind of got that balance. Because you saw the nightly news, you saw all the negative stuff, but then you also got to see this window into sort of like normal life. And again, like you said, it wasn't really trying to push this idea of us against them, or it was just a sort of like, can't we all get along propaganda, which I think is actually okay.
It was propaganda from a more innocent, sort of like a more optimistic time. A time that Chris and I remember where gangbangers only had one meaning. But anyway,
they didn't. Yeah, exactly. They didn't have this. They didn't seem to have this desire to demonize white people whilst they were trying to elevate black people. It was just basically saying white people can be awesome, black people can be awesome, and they can be buddies together, and they can go town to town and find instances where the sheriff is abusing the local population, and they can build some kind of a machine together. They can take out that local sheriff.
They used those A-team plots for a year.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the same episode. Like every episode was like exactly the same plot. It was great.
MacGyver was just the A-team, but it was one dude.
Yeah, and he would make He wouldn't make big machines. He would make.
He didn't just use
a variety of
drums.
things.
Yeah.
At least there was variety in the stuff that he was making. Yeah. Anyway, A-Team, great show. Great show. Classic. I made Kurt cry. That's my. All right.
The nostalgia
Job done
gets
for this
me,
episode.
you know.
We can
Disney,
end
this
the
is how you
episode
do
now.
nostalgia right. You should have hired
That's
Chris
right.
instead of ruining
Right.
all of the billion-dollar franchises you bought.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, all right. So, point is, we're ruining society by making everybody racist against white people. All right, let's look at the next story. What do we got
Even
here?
back then, when they did like the very special sort of like episodes, like there's this famous one where they had what's the guy, the guy that has like dwarfism, he's like a child, black guy. Anyway.
Well, it's either Different Strokes or Webster.
One or the other. But anyway, they had like this watch out for pedophiles episode when there's like, you know, yeah, it's famous. It made the rounds for years on the internet.
I did see.
Yeah,
I do remember
like,
this. It was Different Strokes.
Come over to my house. I'll buy you a bicycle. I'll like do certain things, and I'll do nice things for you. It was warning children about pedophiles and to watch out for them. And it was basically a like, you know, very special, the more you know sort of episode. They'd never do that nowadays because they're trying to normalize that very behavior.
Exactly.
They're trying to make
They'd
them
be like, Mr. Jones down the street isn't a bad person for wanting to touch you, little boy.
He's a minor attracted person. We're gonna give him
a minor attracted. Exactly.
Yeah, a nice little acronym and try to like lump him in with all the oppressed people. Like, no. He's basically like the real life Walking Dead zombie infecting other people to be like him, and we're trying to like normalize this. So like, yeah, it's
Kurt. I can't even. I'm sitting here kind of like outside of this, like stepping back and just looking at it and thinking, how are we having this conversation? This is like the most disturbing, messed up reality. I mean, back in the 80s, if you would have said this is where our country's going, people would not have believed you. People just would not have believed you. All right. Yeah. Our country's getting crazy. Yeah. But the 80s, we had good values. You know what it was? There was a Christian revival in the 80s. In the 80s, you certainly had like, you know, the Madonnas. You had the sort of like, you know, the vulgarity in films, you know.
Which will always exist.
Yeah. You had this sort of pop culture stuff that was trying to sort of like push society more and more in a, I would say, a secular way, in a sort of sinful way, you might say, and they were always trying to push the envelope of what was socially acceptable. But you also had this like very strong Christian push in the 1980s that I genuinely think made everything better.
And you had your spirit animal, Michael J. Fox's Alex P. Keaton there, the young Republican with the hippie parents.
Yes. I mean, come on. They had a show about a hippie family with a Republican son. That was like the black sheep situation, right? Which is obviously the opposite.
Nowadays, you could have that show. You could have that very same show where you had the Biden supporters, and this is true of like Gen Z. Gen Z, the generations coming up, the men of those generations are increasingly more to the right, and the women are more to the left. So if you had a show, a quality show like you had back in the 80s, today, to represent what's going on in the culture, you would have the leftist daughter, you would have the right side son, and you'd have the parents.
You have the transgender daughter, probably.
Sure, but I mean, even then, you'd have true representation, not just representation for one side. And that, I think that would be a very successful show. If you had sort of like the parents voted for Biden and the teenage son is like pro-Trump, like, oh, hijinks ensue. But they'd never do that because they don't want to even make Trump an option. They'd have to like demonize the son. He'd end up like shooting up the school or something. So we're so politically like slanted in terms of media that we can't even create entertainment that's worth entertaining.
And now you got guys coming out of the military saying white people don't understand me, so I'm going to murder them all. And like I said, you get this a lot more than people think. I think because the news does not cover, like you said, they're not putting out the mugshots of black people anymore because it's going to make everybody racist, right? We're all going to go grab our hoods and our robes and start lynching. But no, the media has tried to I wouldn't say they covered it up. They just don't cover this stuff very much anymore. They try to avoid covering, you know, unless it's like really bad situations, they won't really cover, or they'll cover it very briefly. Black people murdering white people or committing crimes against white people. And a lot of times these black guys will actually talk about how they don't like white people and they want to see white people suffer. And it's only very rarely that we actually see this on a national level. You'll see it locally, but you won't see it nationally. And speaking of black men that want to kill white people,
special guest?
No, we've got a new video game coming out. A new video game coming out called Assassin's Creed. I don't know if you guys have played the Assassin's Creed games. I've played a couple of them. They're very leftist. There's one version of Assassin's Creed you play in London, and you have to help Karl Marx unionize labor.
You're kidding.
No, that's really a real thing.
by slitting the throats of the opposition?
Exactly, yeah, basically.
Oh my God.
And then you have to help Darwin basically try to eradicate Christianity. It's ridiculous. The game is ridiculous. So now they got a new Assassin's Creed game. Let's have a look at this trailer real quick and tell us. You know, on Twitter, there's a big thing now, like, what do you notice about this picture? Which I just like delete those accounts at this point. But it's such clickbaity, annoying stuff. But I'm gonna use that clickbait here. What do you notice about this samurai video game?
Who are you?
Well, he's not Japanese. I'll tell you, who are you? That's an African right there. So Assassin's Creed has decided to make a samurai game with a black dude, African samurai. Now, here's the thing. This is how they're getting away with this. Is how they're like justifying what they're doing. There was actually a black samurai. There was an African guy who was, I think he was a slave, and, you know, bought and sold, went through India, ended up in Japan. And this rich dude bought this black slave, and he was like, look at my black warrior, because he was like very tall, right? Big, strong dude. And he's like, look at my black-skinned warrior that protects me, you know, my samurai. Mm-hmm. Samurai is a very specific classification, and it's unclear whether this black guy was actually classified as a samurai. But as Westerners perceive samurai, this is essentially what he was. Okay, so you got this black warrior in Japan that existed. But I went ahead and I looked into this. There's an amazing channel called the Metatron. If you want to know anything about ancient history, Roman history specifically, but medieval history. Well,
isn't he the one that's trying to defeat the Autobots and take over?
He's an Italian guy. He's like literally a genius. He'll tell you everything you need to know about anything in history. It's amazing. Just write the Metatron and then any point in history, and you'll learn whatever you want to learn. But anyway, from his accounts, I watched his videos about this guy. This guy was like probably something more like a freak show attraction than an actual samurai, right? Because there were like in feudal Japan in these ancient times, the Demon Slayer just jumped in. He says the black slave was not a samurai. They dressed him in armor and made fun of him. I don't know if they made fun of him, but he was certainly, like I said, like a freak show attraction.
Where'd they find armor that fit him?
Well, I assumed it was specially made.
At the very least, the cod piece had to be let out, right?
That's the myth. So they.
You must have been one of my ancestors.
The point is that that this guy was not necessarily like this great warrior, this great legendary warrior with this like amazing story. It was just this guy's slave that he had. That was sort of a novelty in Japan because there just weren't any black people in Japan. So you had this one guy, and everybody. You could like back then. It was just like if you were rich, you want to show off anything that you had that was exotic. So if you had something from Europe, you show that off. If you had something from, Africa, you would show that off, right? Mm-hmm. And this was a human being from Africa, which certainly would have looked different than everybody else, and it would have been an interesting spectacle.
It was the equivalent of somebody in England being shown a tiger. Like, what the heck?
Exactly it. That's exactly it. Exactly it. And so this is not historically accurate. This is not, for Ubisoft to like throw in a black, they're just trying to be provocative. They're trying to do something interesting. Ubisoft made a game a little while ago that I absolutely love. Actually, it's called Far Cry 6. It's really one of the best games I've ever played in my life, but it's infuriating because it's all about gay, trans people. Women are like your allies. You're supposed to play as a woman. You can play as a woman or a guy, but they specifically set it up for you to play as a woman. You're supposed to play as a woman. All the different like soldiers that you're supposed to be working with, the different little battalions around. You're supposed to be playing in Cuba, essentially. All the different battalions in Cuba, where you're supposed to be like trying to go after this villain, that's this dictator who's running the country. They're all these different factions are headed by women. It's women. It's a huge feminist thing. And the only guy in the game that's one of the, like, there's this weird thing where there's like a rock band that's like heading one of the factions. It's weird, yeah. And the two people who are like the rock band musicians, one's a chick and one's a dude. But the dude is a trans dude. So it's just two lesbian chicks. One of them that dresses up like a guy. It's the whole game is so shoving it down your throat every 6 seconds. This woke agenda bullcrap. Like, it's like so overboard. Like, it's so overdone. It's like, okay, I understand you slipping in a couple of woke things here and there. That's what most games do. But Ubisoft is like crazy with the woke stuff, and I've just had enough of it. Like, I will not play this game. I will not play Assassin's Creed. They're so anti-Christian. They're like always pushing this atheist crap. They're always pushing this woke crap. And it's a real shame because the playability of the game is fantastic. And a lot of the stories are actually quite good. And a lot of the characters are quite good. But they throw all this woke junk on it and it just ruins the whole thing. Like, I definitely didn't play the Viking Assassin's Creed that they had because that was very blatantly anti-Christian, and I just couldn't be a part of that one. So I didn't.
You gave it the axe, ironically.
I gave it the axe. Anyway, what do you think about
quick shout out to the chat? You guys are hilarious and awesome. As Chris prattles on incessantly, I'm reading your comments. Yeah, so somebody said, a maggot. I'm not a drill sergeant. This is his screen name. You maggot. Where is Kurt looking? I'm new to the show. I'm looking at the chat, and I'm looking at the articles that Chris is referencing, and I'm looking at the screen. So hopefully
he's got a computer next to him. What is the funny stuff? Read me one of the funny things.
No, funny's my job. Read them yourself. Black slave wasn't a samurai. Okay, we saw that earlier. But anyway, we're talking about.
What do you think as an actual?
We got a lot of people in the chat right now, so thank you guys.
What as an actual Japanese man yourself with samurai heritage?
Chris,
what do you think of them throwing this black guy in to the
Chris,
game?
don't make it about race and culture. I'm an American, all right? And I want to be perceived.
Let me just say real quick.
Just because
it is kind of
it is
kind of refreshing.
The white man's I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say, and the white man.
I'm white-splaining.
Stifle me.
It's nice.
Okay, you white-splain to me.
It's nice a little bit that they're taking. They're taking another culture and they're vandalizing it. Other than just white culture. Because
just messing with white culture.
It's nice they're spreading their disgusting annoyingness around a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. They're indiscriminate, so I guess that's good for them. That's their whole thing, right? They should be like, we're not discriminating against anybody. But I mean, yeah. So I love that they're like trying to make it like it's historically accurate. Like, nobody can complain about this. We're on the right side of history or this one. There was a black samurai. Just like, I think this is just they were just trying to bait Samuel L. Jackson doing the voice. I think that was the ploy they had here. Like, we're gonna make a black samurai. We're gonna picture Sam Jackson, offer him below scale. He's gonna do it anyway. And he was just like, nah, I'm cool. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, we'll just like we'll roll with it anyway. And yeah, I mean. I guess if you made him a black ninja, you'd have like, you'd just be sort of like the memes would write themselves. Ninja, please. What's up, my ninja?
Ninja, please.
Things like that. So
my ninja, yeah.
To make him a samurai was sort of like
stuff.
either it's black samurai or bust.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, they
I don't play video games because I'm not a child, so.
Look, they I think that there is this sense of like there are on the left, like in the leftist mind, that there are the good races and that there are the bad races. And it seems to fall along the same lines as the successful races and the unsuccessful races, historically speaking. Right? That's not to say that there are no successful black people.
Chris, that's all because of oppression.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
No black person has ever been successful in this country. They certainly haven't been president. Wait a minute.
I was talking about this the other day because we just reviewed Gladiator. And Gladiator, it really isn't my favorite film, but Gorka absolutely loves it. And there is a lot to recommend about that movie. I mean, it is just really well made. The way they made that film is just phenomenal. And there are some black characters, and there certainly were some Africans in Rome during that time. But they didn't push that as an agenda in any way. There were black characters in the film. There weren't like overtly gay characters in the film, or at least not. There was I think there was a couple of gay characters, but it was not like an agenda thing. They were like pushing it on everybody. They seemed to handle it with some degree of historical accuracy. And back when they made Gladiator, that seemed to be something that they cared a lot about. I read an article where they were criticizing the use of catapults or trebuchets, I can't remember which, but siege weapons against the Germans at the very beginning of the show. And the idea was that, well, you wouldn't use siege weapons in open combat against, an enemy just charging against you. Use a siege weapon against a wall or a building, right? So this was a little bit silly, but they did it kind of excuse it because they were like, well, they wanted to show the might of the Romans and all that kind of thing. So there were some historical inaccuracies. I mean, there were a lot of historical inaccuracies, to be honest, in the Gladiator movie, but they were trying to give an accurate sense of what it might have been like to just exist back then and be in Rome and be fighting in these kinds of wars and stuff like that. So, but what's interesting nowadays, you never see articles critical of the historical accuracy of films anymore. And why is that? Because they've thrown historical accuracy out the window. They don't care anymore. They made there was a film where they made, I think it was Henry VIII, a black woman. Like, they just do not care anymore because they're trying to make everyone black. Yeah, they throw in some Asians. Yeah, they throw in some Latinos, whatever. That actually really annoyed me. There was, because I read the Narnia books as a kid. The Narnia books are they're sort of staple of like the sort of the readings of young Christian children in America, at least when I was growing up. And these are some of the best books you can get as kids. They're amazing. I think they're 1,000 times better than Harry Potter books. I think the kids that grew up with Harry Potter were done a disservice because they didn't grow up with the Narnia books. But when they brought in Prince Caspian in the movie version, they for some reason made them all Spanish. Now, Spain is, of course, a European country, but Prince Caspian was not Spanish, and none of his people were. So he was English. And so I don't know why they made that change for the movie, but they wanted this sort of cultural difference because I think leftists think that Spain and Spanish culture is where we get like Latino culture, and therefore it's kind of acceptable as, we can kind of like separate the Spanish out a little bit. They're not purely white. They're not stained with the sins of the evil white Europeans in the same way, even though they probably conquered more places than any other European nation. But we've got another super chat here real quick. Demon Slayer writes, black people, they take credit for everything, responsibility for nothing. I don't know if I'd say black people in general. I think most of the problem here, is white leftists who are injecting this blackness where it doesn't necessarily belong.
We was queens. Yeah.
There are black people like that for sure. I mean, that's annoying as well. The biggest problem comes from the Nation of Islam, and I've done videos about this before. I should do another video on this. The Nation of Islam is a fake religion, essentially. It's a bit of a cult.
Chris, can you bring up a map and show us where the Nation of Islam is located?
Nation of Islam is a cult, and they basically created the story of this this prophet called oh gosh, I forget his name. Yaqub. This prophet Yaqub, or is he a prophet or something? He's like a scientist apparently. This guy Yaqub back in the ancient times, and Yaqub took like the lightest skinned black people that he could find, forced them to procreate until he had, and he did this generation until he had white people. And then he used white people to take over the world. And so white people are sort of like the demonic evil people that have taken over the world because of Yaqub's meddling. And it's
was he the same guy that built all the ships that they used to go from Africa to the New World before everybody else?
That's all part of it. That's all part of it. So that's what I was getting to. So basically, their whole history, this Nation of Islam's entire history, the concept of history is all distorted because it's black people did everything awesome and white people were just sort of in the way, interfering and this sort of thing. And they have this sort of idea that one day black people will rise up and take back the world. So a lot of this kind of stuff comes from that. And it's like these white leftists, they don't want to contradict this pseudo history. So they kind of go along with it, which is completely insane. And so they don't mind this sort of like race bending historical accounts, which I think is so damaging on so many levels. Like we're destroying our own sense of history generationally. We're telling the next generation, oh yeah, there were tons of black aristocrats in England, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, there weren't. But that's what that's what the powers, that's what these rich people who make these video games, make these movies, make these TV shows, that's what they want to do. So that's what they're doing. And it's, I don't know. I don't think people are reading the real history anymore.
I draw a parallel with the whole sort of like thing going on with like the manosphere and the feminists. Like the feminist movement has been going on for so long, and now it's reached sort of like an insane sort of crescendo that now you have this undeniable reaction to that, which is sort of like you have this manosphere in the culture, and you have like the passport bro movement, and you have like marriage rates are in the toilet, and you have like all this stuff going on in the culture. I think that's sort of the same thing that's going on in the political sense, and like with the culture of like different races like that. It's like, so men and women are being opposed to are being pushed against each other like at war. So you have damn it, I lost my point.
Yeah. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
It's not your fault.
All right, if you get it back, we'll discuss it. I want to point out, let's just jump to another story here. I want to point out that I posted a survey on my X account, but of course my X account is totally insignificant. I don't know why it's so crap, but I think I still am shadow banned from the previous, since before. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm just really bad at social media. But anyway, so I posted, who wants RFK to be included in the debates, right? It's shocking to me that Joe Biden actually agreed to debate Trump. This is obviously a huge story. I talked about this on Newsmax last night. And well, I think my segment's going to air Sunday. So I talked about it last night, but I think it's airing Sunday. But we talked about how, like, is this going to actually last? Like, this is going to actually happen? Biden has agreed to debate Trump, but will it actually occur? Because it seems like suicide. You know, it just seems completely ridiculous. How is this going to actually happen? But I posted this survey. I said, who wants RFK to be included in the debate? Over 50% of people want RFK included. And the other 50% either do want it just to be Trump or Biden, or they just don't care, or they're not sure. So it's sort of a mixed bag. The other 50%, but 50% want RFK included. And the thing is, Robert Kennedy Jr., I do think that in the long run, he will end up hurting Biden. He says right now that he takes more votes away from Trump than he takes away from Biden. I'm not sure that's true. I would love for that to be true right now, because I would love that for that to be true right now, because if you look at the polling, Trump's destroying Biden. So if RFK is actually taking more votes away from Trump, that could only get better as people discover what RFK is, because RFK is not a conservative in any way, shape, or form. He is definitely a leftist. He's got some interesting ideas about the vaccine. He's got some interesting ideas about some other stuff, but he's definitely like a full-on leftist. And when leftists figure that out, some of them will shift to RFK. And when conservatives figure that out, they're going to shift back to Trump. So he will be a spoiler for Biden. So I hope he stays into the end, man. I love that this guy's in the race.
She must be a pro for the debate then, because sort of like, everything is exposed by the harsh light of day. The more he talks, the more exposure he gets, the more he be seen for what he is, and therefore, I will say, I haven't had the thought. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you sorry. The only reason I interrupt is because you said you must be for this. I actually would prefer to have just a Trump-Biden debate, and it's nothing to do with like. It's not that I don't want to hear what RFK has to say or give him a shot or whatever. I just want that sort of perfect moment where Biden gets up there, they're feeding him softball questions like, why do you love dogs so much, Joe Biden? And they feed Trump these ridiculous questions like, so why did you decide to become Hitler? And then I want to see Biden go up there with his bat going up to bunt, and like missing the ball and falling over. And then Trump going out there and being like, whoopah, home run every time, knocking him out of the park, obliterating Biden. They got Dana Bash. I think they got Jake Tapper, right? They got these like, they got these folks that have it in for Trump. They're what do they say? They're in the bag for Biden, and they got it in for Trump. These are both phrases that seem very similar but are opposite. But anyway, point is, they don't like Trump. They want to kill Trump, and they love Biden. They want Biden to I don't know if they love Biden, but they want to support Biden. So this all seems like what you would call like a kill box, right? In when you're talking about like movie spy terms. They want to get Trump into this trap where they can then just like try to obliterate his campaign. But Trump is just so dang good. Do they really think they're going to get him? Because they're definitely not.
I can't recall. Did the two of them debate 3+ years ago?
In 2020, there was a couple of debates.
They debated? I don't remember.
There was a couple of debates. Biden, when he announced this debate, he said, "Come on, Trump, make my day." And then he says, "I beat you in 2 debates. I want to debate you again." And it's like, well, you didn't beat him in 2 debates. I would say there was one debate where Trump kind of self-sabotaged. I don't really know what happened there. That was a terrible debate. But the other debate, I think Trump clearly won that one. So I don't know what Biden's talking about. That's not true what he's saying. But, of course, he's got to put on a brave face.
That's like boxing. The judging's always going to be biased, right? There's a lot of money, power at stake here.
I think I think he's going to pull out. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, how is this going to work?
You gave me a direct question. So, I was thinking that the only way that this could possibly go Biden's direction would be if they have such a realistic stand-in that we don't realize that it's not Biden, or if they put on such a time delay that they just go through and they like use AI and use every trick in the book to just sort of like cook up this debate that they can then sort of like deliver to the masses and just
auto-tune, but like, with ideas.
Yeah, I don't know what their ideas, because obviously it's a terrible thing to do, because Biden is in severe mental decline and Trump is a very clever guy off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, very funny as well.
The only reason they would do this is if they would felt pressure to do this, like they had to do it because the polls are so bad, because everything looks so bad for them. But I don't really understand it. But besides that, like the inclusion of RFK, I like it because I feel like RFK is very much in the mix. I mean, obviously he's not up there with the two of them, but I mean, the whole idea is we shouldn't just have a 2-party system where just like, okay, these are the guys, like everybody else can F off. That's what Biden did with the field of the Democrat side. And Trump, at least, was just like, okay, well, let's see who the people want to be representative of the Republicans. And Biden's just like, it's me. Or I shouldn't say Biden, because Biden doesn't make any decisions. The Biden regime decided, like, no, he's going to stay in the bunker. He's not debating. He's not running. Like, you guys, everybody else F off. Biden is the presumptive nominee. So including RFK is just like, we're supposed to have a democracy here. We're supposed to go through these processes. And if he shows up there and he's like, it's Trump and Biden and RFK just like kills it, like, give him that opportunity. Give him his chance.
So be it.
So be it. And I sort of like went back and forth as well. What you were thinking about too. Like, we want that juxtaposition of like Trump versus
want that
Biden.
Clean debate. I feel like
we want that clean debate, and RFK muddies the works. But I say let them be muddied, because the people. I think I really don't feel like these debates, unless there's some sort of like monumentous event that happens, like there's a clear like grandiose sort of thing. It's like people are cemented in their minds. We've had the better part of 4 years.
No, I don't
think
think so. I think, the vast majority of people are certainly firm in their views. Here's the thing about Biden this year. We've seen what Biden will do as president. We know what Trump will do as president. Mm-hmm. We hear what they'll say Trump will do as president, but we know it isn't true because Trump was president. So they, like when De Niro comes out and he's like, Trump is going to be a dictator. We know he's going to be a dictator because he was a dictator. It's like, well, but he wasn't, though. What are you talking about? We saw it. He wasn't a dictator. He's like, they keep trying to pretend that like he orchestrated January 6th in order to take over.
From the perspective of a globalist, from the perspective of America last.
Right.
Most Americans are America first, and that's all Trump. But Trump benefits from a very clear message. Biden's message is very muddy. Biden's message is like, currently Biden's message is, don't believe your lying wallet. There is no recession. So, I mean, what American that lives in America and that operates in day-to-day life and tries to live their life can get on board with that brilliant strategy?
Well, Biden was hugely benefited by the fact that Trump's presidency was hamstrung by COVID. That was really what got him through the first, I would say, year or 2 years of his presidency. But
he had a scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly. But conservatives kept saying, like, look, if it hadn't been for COVID, Trump would have been awesome. Like, Trump's first year or so was fantastic. Like, everybody was happy. And people do remember that. And they do remember the lockdowns. They do remember the Democrats forcing them to wear masks and everything. And people aren't that stupid. I mean, people are pretty gullible and pretty stupid. They'll believe a lot of stuff. But I do think that there's a big enough percentage of Democrats who are just like so fed up with Biden. They may not like Trump, but they may just not vote. That's the thing. They may go, you know what? Whatever. I'm done with this crap. I don't like Trump, but I also can't, in good conscience, vote for this brain dead, puppet president. So screw it. I'm just going to go to Bahamas and like sip on a coconut. And
Jason's not here, so I'm going to play the the burn it all down nihilist perspective here and say that they didn't vote for him last time. This whole like Trump Biden got X amount of votes.
No, well, that's where we get to the question of, can you beat the cheat? Right? Because that's really what we're talking about. We're not really talking about who's going to win the election anymore. We haven't been talking about that since 2020. Mm-hmm. We now talk about, can Trump beat Biden by such a huge margin that even cheating won't work? That's really the question.
I say no.
No, not, but Kurt, we don't know is the reality. We don't know.
Well, we don't know, but that's my prediction. Of course, I know.
Right. But the thing is, the thing is, we've got to work our butts off.
I'm trying to dissuade people from working and voting.
But that's the risk when you go the nihilist route and go, it doesn't effing matter anyway.
Chris, if all it takes is for me to say, like, I'm not saying don't bother trying, and
I'm just trying to be clear here, Kurt.
And nobody that is committed to the success of this country is going to hear that and say like, oh well, throw their hands up and walk away. Like, so I mean,
yeah, but we got to be clear about our messaging. We just got to be clear about our messaging.
We're not doing a show for Democrats. Our audience is not stupid, Chris. They know what I'm saying.
Nevertheless, I think it's important to be clear about what we mean when we say things, right? And so it's I do think that it's possible to win.
You have a business to run.
No, it's nothing to do with that. It just has to do with the reality of the situation. Is the reality that it's impossible that Trump could win because of cheating? I don't think so. I mean, you're saying that it's more likely that the cheating will not be able to be overcome. But I think that there is a very good chance. In fact, I think it's almost inevitable. And here's why I think it's inevitable.
I think it's inevitable that Trump will win.
Yeah. Okay. That we will beat the cheat is that the mainstream media are kind of freaking out. Mm-hmm. You know, in 2020, that didn't really happen. The mainstream media were not freaking out. They kind of understood that the game was rigged. They understood what was going on. And different polls showed different things, and there was a sort of like, who's going to win kind of situation. I thought for sure Trump was going to win because there was no enthusiasm on the left at all, But polls showed it very close. In fact, polls tended to show Biden winning. And the media seemed to be like, yeah, this is going to happen. We're going to get Joe Biden in here. I mean, it's going to be close. We're going to get Joe Biden, I think. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? I had interviewed Democrats who'd be like, if I had the option to go on vacation or to vote, I'd go on vacation. I'm like, okay, so there's no enthusiasm behind Biden at all. Now, not only is there no enthusiasm behind Biden, there's active disdain for Biden on the left.
That's true. There's a lot of stuff on CNN and other places that are basically saying like Biden can't win, or like there is doom and gloom from the mainstream media,
which is great.
Media. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very different feeling. It's a very different dynamic. I also don't think that because that could
also be to motivate the leftists to feel like, okay, we're behind it. We need to step up. It could be sort of like, trying to gin up support for Biden, because if you say like, oh yeah, it's more inclusion, Biden's going to win, but you don't have that turnout, and how much you have to cheat gets so exponentially like increased to make it seem even plausible. So I'm going to play a video. I'm going to play a video for you that we're going to jump to the next news story here. This is so apparently there's a new documentary on NBC, and it's about how animals are gay. Let's have a look at this.
The paparazzi really are everywhere.
Everything you were taught as a kid is wrong.
You make me wanna dance. Gay penguins, bisexual lions, sex-changing clownfish.
This is a queer planet.
Queerness has always existed. It's only in humans that we have...
The idea of just having two fixed sexes is clearly out of style.
Mother Nature is pretty open-minded. Sex is not reproduction.
It's clear that no matter where you look on our planet, nature is full of queer surprises.
To be honest, we should all probably get laid a little more than we do.
Okay.
So we went from nature is metal to the animal kingdom is gay. This is great.
I could not hate this more. You can go ahead and read my comment that I posted when I posted this. Non-consensual sexual relationships between animals is extremely common, right? A lot of times an animal will go up to another animal and just the male will have his way with the female, whether the female likes it or not. Does that mean that human beings should be running around with clubs, whacking women on the head, dragging them back to the cave? You know what I mean? Like, this is their argument that if you watch, I told you there was a show, Clarkson Farm, and he has these pigs, and the mother pig, because they never had pigs before, so they didn't really know how this worked. They kept finding these dead baby piglets, and it turns out that the mother was rolling over onto the piglets and killing them. and she just wasn't paying attention, just killing her own children. Like, if a human did that, she'd go to prison, you know. And then they found one piglet was just missing, and they found like the ear, and they realized the mother had eaten it. Like, animals are not the same as human beings. First of all, secondly, I don't even think what they're saying is true. I don't think there is that much homosexuality in the animal kingdom.
Chris, you have to learn to trust the science.
I think what you get is prison style, you know, screwing around, where in certain circumstances, you know, the animals will essentially act like prison inmates. You know what I mean? And they've done studies on prison inmates.
Even like dogs and things, like the humping and things. It's like, what is it? It's a show of dominance, right?
Yeah.
Is this going on with women?
I'll throw Dame Piglet's comment in here. She says, people thought Biden would add unity and maturity. He did not. Yeah, no kidding. I just wanted to throw that in there. That was from our last segment, but very, very true. And people recognize that. Even leftists recognize that, which I think is important. But getting back to the gay animals thing, they've been trying to push this for a long time. So I've looked into this a few times. The whole concept of homosexuality in America, that is supposed to give them, you know, special rights and protections, and we're supposed to love gay people. The whole argument behind this is that gay people are born gay. That's the whole argument. They're born attracted to the same sex. But in the animal kingdom, this is almost never true. I think they found certain instances, you know, certain animals in captivity and things where, you know, things get a little bit screwed up. Animals get confused and stuff. They had this gay penguin for a long time. I don't remember what zoo it was at, but they had this couple of penguins that were sort of basically playing house. They were like playing male and female penguin, but it was two like male penguins. And then they introduced a female penguin, and the penguins immediately adopted a normal sort of heterosexual penguin lifestyle. And everybody was all upset about this because they were like, no, these were gay penguins. And it's like, yeah, because you had them in this very artificial
just like vegan dogs. It's like, oh yeah, the dog's vegan. He's happy. He's healthy. Yeah, you slap a piece of raw meat in front of that dog. He ain't no vegan no more. He's going to eat that meat because he's following his actual biology. Yeah.
Yeah, you can manipulate nature a little bit here and there. You know, you can condition animals to do things that they wouldn't normally do in their natural environment. And certainly there are, you know, animals will act in weird ways if you put them in weird circumstances, for sure. Mm-hmm. But this is not evidence of, you know, they're born that way. You know,
yeah. Seals have always played trumpets. They love it.
You've got exactly
fish in the wild, just like
exactly, yeah.
Learned behavior.
It's that, yeah. It's learned behavior. It's stress. It's very unusual circumstances, and for a long time, the scientific community was pretty much universally accepted this idea that animals just were not gay, and then they would find this exception or that exception or this kind of weird circumstance or that weird circumstance, and they'd go, okay, maybe there is a little evidence here and there, and then they got a whole documentary with this illusion. This is all BS, you guys. The thing that annoys me about this is it looks like this is a documentary for children. And that's the one thing that's really weird. I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about with the gay thing is, like, I always call it LGBTQP. You can't forget the P. They're just as important as the rest of them. And isn't that the whole point, is the P's, really?
Yeah.
Because
when I have to pee, that's all I think about. I'll leave the show. I'll walk away.
You do realize what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Because that doesn't make you sound very good. I don't know. That might have. Anyway, the point is
all
like,
about the P. Quote,
well, what's weird about the whole LGBTQ thing at the moment is, like, so much of it seems to be exactly. Yeah, you got it. So much of it seems to be custom made to indoctrinate children, right? Like, even the rainbow flag itself, the pride flag, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you see rainbows like depicted? Like, you used to see, I guess, like rainbow suspenders for bad in Hawaii. Well, actual rainbows, we're not talking about that. I'm talking about like like you would have comedians with like the rainbow suspenders.
Just a second. A couple of coaches ago for our university team, we used to be the Rainbows for decades, for a long time. And I think it was June Jones. He just changed it to instead of the Rainbow Warriors, just the Warriors, because the rainbow was too gay. So there's no
Even
place
for
that we have
Hawaii.
more prominent rainbows than in Hawaii, and we hired an out of state coach. He's just like, it's gay, lose it.
They
And everybody's
ruined
like,
the
okay.
rainbow. The gay community ruined the rainbow. But think about it. Like you see it at preschools. You see rainbow colored things at preschools because rainbow is not a particularly like stylish look. You know what I mean? Like Robin Williams used to have those rainbow suspenders. It's like a tacky comedian thing. But like mostly you just
you saw an old picture of him in those suspenders, just like, oh, what am I doing? Oh.
Anyway, I can't go on. What have I done with my life?
But it is right now. Anyway, go on.
What have I done with my life? Too soon, Kurt. Too soon. So,
long enough.
So you got this tacky rainbow color stuff for kids because it's sort of bright and cartoony and whatever. And then the gay people adopt that. I don't know if that's like a coincidence or what, because then fast forward to today and you've got this drag queen thing. Or what are drag queens? Drag queens are essentially clowns that are almost sort of a caricature of a transgender person, right? Because you could literally have women dressing up in that sort of look, like in the drag queen look. You could have actual women doing that. Women don't typically do that, right? They don't typically put on that female clown apparel. Men do it. Why? Weird. It's crazy. It's a weird sort of like it comes out of burlesque. Okay, it comes out of gay burlesque, and these gay burlesque, and they realize that okay, these weird sexual perversions are similar to what kids like to see with clowns and being silly and being funny. So let's do this drag queen story hour thing, and we'll mesh the two up: our sexual perversions with children's appreciation of clowns. Like to me, that's pretty crazy. You know what I mean? And a lot, like if you watch that video back, a lot of like that, those sort of bright colors and the the fun music, and the way people are talking, a lot of the way that you hear people talk now, like gay people talk, the LGBTQ community talk, LGBTQP, I gotta remember the P. When you see like a YouTube video or something, it seems very much like an educational film for children. They are always trying to indoctrinate the next generation. And so when you say, oh, you're targeting the kids, they go, oh, no, we're not. But then they obviously are. You know what I mean? Like their actions speak much louder than the words. And now you find they're openly admitting that they're targeting the kids. I got this little clip from NPR that I'm gonna post this video about why we should defund NPR. And there's a clip. If you listen all the way through all the clips, there's a clip where the guy says, "Yeah, we're targeting the kids."
NPR
is
like the BBC of America. It's just like we don't need taxpayer money funding for anything.
Yeah, this queer planet video is propaganda for children. Is LGBTQP propaganda for children.
And
this is going to mess with kids'
for
head.
general audiences as well, and probably.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
They're taking advantage of the idea of like they got men and women both working jobs. The feminist movement. You've got, instead of the parents raising the children, you've got the school system, because you need to send your kids off somewhere if both parents are working. So you send them to public school, which is paid for by taxes, and then you show them this kind of stuff, and it's just like, okay, well. Yeah, it's all programmed in the next generation. So
FL Sheepdog 1 threw $2 at us, and he writes, "Cheetahs like to cheat." I think it was worth it. I think the $2 was worth the bad pun.
Haitian's gonna hate.
Florida Sheepdog 1 jumped in with another $2, and he wrote something that I will not read. It's just too gross. Kurt will read it. Go on, Kurt.
Yes, Brad Thomas. I was almost the lone warrior I thought it was on my end, but yeah, Chris dropped out there too. Just be me. Just be me spitting in the wind.
What I was...
Follow the rainbow to the pot of condoms.
Did I drop off?
You did for a bit, at least on my end, but I never know what's going on. And,
that's annoying.
On the show and in life.
All right. Well, that's disgusting. Thank you, Florida Sheepdog, for that horrific comment. Was it worth the $2? I don't know. Kurt can answer that question better
Art,
than I
stars,
can.
and horseshoes.
All right. Well, that's enough of that topic. I'm done talking about gay animals. I'm just disgusted by everything in the world today. What do we got next? Okay. This is actually quite shocking. So the Prime Minister of Slovakia, there was an assassination attempt on this guy's life. This guy's basically like a right-wing type dude. I don't know much about him, so I can't say how much I support this guy, but he's a very anti-immigrant. He's got these sort of like I think he's called the Donald Trump of Slovakia. But he does seem to have an affection for Putin, which I don't know. I don't know enough about Slovakia to be able to comment on this guy, but a lot of stuff about him seems all right. I don't know yet. I mean, I haven't studied this guy enough, but it's pretty shocking that he would be assassinated. Like, I wouldn't want Joe Biden to be assassinated just because I disagree with his politics. But it looks like this guy's going to live, which is nice. But then check out how the British news media, Sky News, reported on this. They basically are saying it's okay that that there was an attempted assassination on this guy's life because he's conservative. These guys are disgusting. Oh, and by the way, the guy who the assassination attempt was made by a far left radical who has basically been trying to say for years now that leftists are actually the peaceful ones. So I presume this is a mostly peaceful assassination attempt. But let's go ahead and play this Sky News video.
We don't know his condition yet, but he's being treated. But it's worth thinking about who this individual is. As I said, described in reporting as a populist, as a nationalist.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. I mean, Slovakia is a very conflicted place at the moment. I mean, Fico himself, he established this smear party, SMER, which is a social democracy party back in 1999. And he's been, I think, as you were just saying, Prime Minister 3 times. So he's a well-known figure. But he's become very pro-Russian over the years, and one wonders why and how, but maybe that's his conviction. And like Viktor Orban in Hungary, he's set his teeth against going along with sanctions, with EU sanctions, against common procurement. Slovakia is it's a small country. In the sense that it's the Czechoslovakia as was. The Czech Republic is the bigger bit. Slovakia is the smaller bit, although it was the more industrial in the old days. So it's not to be, it's not negligible, but Slovakia is not a major player within the EU, but a bit like Hungary, which is also a bigger country, but it's not a very big player in the EU economically. They dig their toes in against aid to Ukraine and against any sort of sympathy with Kiev. And they keep saying, look, we want the war to finish. Yeah. And by that, they mean they want the Russians to succeed, and then the war will be over if Ukraine would just surrender and give up territory. And so that's the view he takes. Now, that's very divisive in Slovakia. It's divisive within the EU. So it's not surprising that this sort of event might take place. Because it's a very different country.
Don't rock the boats. Of course, I'm just going to try to kill you.
Yeah, what a couple of pieces of human garbage. It's very important to note that this guy has political positions that differ from us.
No wonder.
So no wonder.
British
so of
actors
course
to be the villains and things. They sound
crap.
Like robots, killbots.
Oh my god. Of course somebody wants to kill him. He disagrees with me on politics. Well, this guy's just asking for it is what's happening, right? Maybe if he didn't wear his skirt so short, this guy wouldn't have come and tried to have his way with him.
Victim blaming.
Yeah, victim blaming.
It's totally victim blaming.
This is the most horrific victim blaming I've ever heard. Because this is not a situation where it's like
It's funny because when you first brought in this story and it was Sky News, I'm like, oh, Sky News is just sort of like justifying the assassination attempt, I was just like, in my mind, I was thinking Sky News Australia because they're based in awesome. I don't actually follow Sky News Britain, but yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. No, Sky News Britain is like legit, like literally the opposite of Sky News Australia. They're just like hard left, crazy. They've always been that way. Horrible people. But anyway, yeah, wild, right? Yeah, I hadn't shown you that before. Before the show, so you were unaware. That's a nice contrast. Your sort of like lager shirt and your pink floral drinking goblet.
I know. You don't know if I'm straight or not. I appeal to everybody.
No. Well, there's something called the Log Cabin Republicans. I'm sure I can get you in contact with those guys.
Okay. Well, if they got log in their name, they're probably a bunch of. I was gonna say.
Log Cabin Republicans are gay Republicans. You've never heard of that?
Are they really?
Yeah.
I don't go to the meetings, Chris. You have to let me know what
all right, I'll let you know.
Happens next time.
All right, so Posobiec posted this, which is interesting. I hadn't heard this. I was going to actually get the actual news story, but I just have this image from Jack Posobiec, so I haven't actually done my due diligence with looking at this. But this is pretty crazy. He says, "Where are the fortifications? Kharkov OVA paid millions to fictitious companies." Now, apparently, what happened here is, so recently Russia has been able to make some progress in northern Ukraine because local officials have just stolen the military aid money. and all I can say, I reposted this, and the repost that I created, I've written on it. This has come as a surprise to literally nobody ever. Like basically everybody who was saying you can't just send money to Ukraine because Ukrainians are corrupt. Ukrainian officials, Ukrainian government is corrupt. All of those cries were just ignored, right? Nobody paid attention to that. Like, you've got to put conditions on stuff if you're going to send it to a country with a corrupt government. You've got to make sure you know where that money's going. Like, did we learn nothing from investigating Joe Biden and the money that we sent to Ukraine? And I think they stole like $8 billion several years back, long before the war. This was money that essentially Joe Biden had sent to Ukraine. Like, Ukrainian officials, that's just like their thing. They just convince America to send them money and then they steal it. This is like a known scam in Ukraine.
This is just the best scam. Putin invading them was just sort of like, this is like the best thing that ever happened to the leadership of Ukraine, because it's just like, we're gonna embezzle so much money. This is gonna be awesome.
Exactly. And here's the funny thing. Okay, unlike most conservatives who are like more or less, they want hands off Ukraine. They want to be neutral in this whole conflict. I actually am in support of Ukraine, which people probably think is, stupid or naive or something like that. But like, the reason I'm in support of Ukraine is twofold. One, Putin is a bad guy with bad intentions. He's former KGB. He's about as bad of a dude as you can get. He basically maintains corruption in Russia so that the people basically have to live by bribing corrupt officials. Like, that's how the whole system works. It's this big mafia thing. I would love to see Russia pull out of their corrupt Soviet, basically prison, and live in a prosperous capitalist democracy. I don't know how it can happen, but that's what I would like to see. Secondly,
old school politics. Sorry. Go ahead.
Secondly, I don't think that the people of Ukraine deserve to be attacked in this way. I think that it's a terrible thing. I do talk about my girlfriends too much on this, my ex-girlfriends too much on this show, but I will say I did date a girl who was Ukrainian. This was many years ago. And she was a major part of my life. She was she was one of the most important people I've ever known in my life. And, for me personally. And so I have some sympathy with the Ukrainian people because of that relationship. these are human beings. These are people with grandmothers and cousins and brothers and sisters and daughters and mothers. And, you've got the situation where
Dogs
they're
and
being
fruit gardens.
right. You got the situation where they are being really pointlessly attacked by Russia. And I know some people in the comments will be like, oh, there's a point to it because of, this
From the Russian
threat to
perspective, there's
Russia
a point to it.
this threat to Russia or that threat to Russia. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that Russia was threatened in a significant enough way for Putin to have attacked Ukraine. So supporting Ukraine, I'm not entirely against it. I'm probably one of the very few Republicans who isn't entirely against supporting Ukraine. But I do think we need to pay a lot of attention to where that money is going, because this is, it's like Eisenhower talked about. You've got once you have a military industrial complex, there are so many opportunities. There's so many incentives to steal that money, to steal all the taxpayer money that's going toward this war stuff. So you got to be very, very careful. You got to have transparency. You got to have accountability. And we don't have any transparency. We don't have any accountability. We don't seem to have any checks on where the money's going. So we're just taking American taxpayer money and we're throwing it at a bunch of rich people who don't need it. And, they're just stealing the money. It's pretty unbelievable. It's sick, really, is what it is.
We're fighting a proxy war. So we're basically like in a war by half measures. So do we support the Ukrainians or don't we, is the question. And it's like, okay, so we're going to give them money. We're going to do this and that. Okay, great. So do we expect them to win the war? According to the Democrats, they're just like, yeah, we're funding them. They're going to win the war. We're holding and say we're not going to win the war. Okay, well, if we want them to win the war, then, and we support them or don't we? Because if we support them, then we should be at war with Russia. We're not at war with Russia. We're just like sort of like going like we're pretending like it's like the what would you call them, like a beggar came to the door and we're just like, oh, we're suffering, can you give us a hand? I'm like, okay, here you go. Right. So and in the meantime, the reason that people in this country don't support Ukraine, don't support the war against Russia, is because we're in a hard time ourselves in this country. We have our problems of our own. We have the Democrats pretend we're not in a recession. Normal Americans are suffering like a huge inflation that, again, they're pretending doesn't exist. People are driving around their junker cars because they want to buy new cars. Like the housing, the real estate market, everything is crap.
America isn't great right now.
Everything
and we're
crap.
using up
And we're
precious
just like,
resources, sending it to Ukraine.
Let's do a new bill that says one thing, but actually it's to shovel more money into the Ukraine dumpster fire in a war that they're not going to win. So,
and they're not even giving the money to. It's not even being used for the military anymore. It's just being stolen.
It's only kickbacks for the. Well, it's not really kickbacks because we're not getting any return. But it's just like, it's just going to. It's just corrupt politicians in this country handing taxpayer money over to corrupt politicians in that country.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't benefit the people at all.
This is the worst kind of elitist, criminal BS. Yeah,
it just hurts the people of two countries, and it's just like, okay, so if we don't like Putin, if we think that Putin's a bad guy and that he shouldn't be in charge of Russia, just like, okay, we got a bad guy in charge of this country right now.
It's true.
And like, okay,
but hold on, Kurt, that's kind of what it boils down to, isn't it? We have a bad leadership here in America. But let's pivot. Go on.
I was just going to say that when it comes to international politics, like at the end of the day, what's the responsibility to the citizenry of their own countries? It's like if Joe Biden steals the next election and we have a tyrant, and he becomes everything. He already is everything that his regime accuses Trump of being. So if we are under a Putin-like regime because Biden steals the next election and they just tamp down on the rights of the entire nation, who's going to come to our rescue? Do we expect the UN is going to be like, oh, let's give them some money so they can fight off, so they can stave off the problem of Biden ain't gonna happen. So take some
No,
responsibility.
and you know what?
for
And you
yourself
know what?
your
The
country.
corruption will only get worse. The more control Democrats have, the worse the corruption will be. I think
more
we'll eventually get
control-
to a point. Well, they're just going to take the tax money themselves, and that'll be it. There won't be any kind of disguising it. They're just going it'll just disappear. They won't produce a bill that gives money to, sustainable energy stuff or to Ukraine
They're not gonna
wars.
hide
They'll just
anymore.
take
It's
it.
gonna be blatant.
Yeah, I think that I think it'll be a little bit more obvious.
Absolutely.
All right, well let's pivot to something that's a little bit more positive. A little bit more positive. Peru classifies transgender, non-binary, and intersex people as mentally ill.
Oh.
Way to go, Peru! Way to go,
Isn't that
Peru!
isn't that where Dylan Mulvaney moved when he thought that America was too anti?
I heard something like that. I
LGBTQP.
read something like that on Twitter. But here's the funny thing about this. This is the really funny thing. This chick who runs Peru, she is
Mariska Hargitay?
I don't know if anybody's going to understand that
NCIS
joke,
Peru. Anyway,
she's a Marxist.
Ah.
She's a Marxist. That's the funny thing. She's been accused of, human rights abuses. Killing her own people. There's all kinds of controversy about her position as the president of Peru. But here's the funny thing. This to me is the obvious consequence of a Marxist leader. You put a Marxist at the head of government, and they're just going to dictate to you what they want. And the funny thing to me is that in the US, we associate, the left and Marxists with this great appreciation of the LGBTQP community. But you look at an actual Marxist who takes over the country, and what does she do? She basically says, you're all crazy. Now, I happen to agree with her. I think she's doing a great job, but I just think not entirely. I don't know. I mean, I haven't studied the politics of this woman or of Peru generally, but I will say, this particular policy, this is what we should be doing here in America. But it is ironic to me that the left would put somebody like her in office here in America, thinking that they're going to get this great champion of LGBTQP rights or whatever, and then they just come in and they do whatever they want, because that's what Marxism is. Marxism is the dictatorship that is precisely the opposite of what you guys say you want on the left. It's just funny to me. But yeah, way to go, Peru. At least they're doing something right over there.
If you just pay attention and listen to these people, these Marxists on the Democrat side, they will tell you what their intentions are. But the people don't listen to what they're saying. They'll say, you know what? If we only had all the power to do whatever we wanted, we can make lives better for you guys. But you guys just won't let us have unchecked power because you're too damn stupid and to realize that we're so smart. It's if you're going to hand your rights over to these people, you don't deserve to have rights. You should be sheep.
Yeah, they're not.
And
they don't understand. They don't understand what they're voting for.
And that's something that I always wrestle with too in this country. Is just sort of well, is the general, when you weigh it all together, is the general population of America, when you sort of take the smartest people, the dumbest people, when you take an average, just do we deserve the government that we have? Because if we have enough people saying yeah. If the culture is do my thinking for me, I don't care. I don't want the responsibility. I don't worry about it. It's just
that's the leftist voters' way.
Yeah, so it's sort of do I have to then realign my own thinking as to gods and clods? Just okay, we got a bunch of morons in this country, and therefore I just have to sort of operate with that as being the baseline. Okay, when I'm driving, when I'm in Hawaii and I'm driving on the free, I'm just people can't drive. They're terrible drivers. So I'm going to assume everybody's going to do the dumbest thing ever, and then I won't get in an accident. And when I look at people, look at the drivers, and I'm just okay, this guy is going to do some stupid ass. And then he does it. I'm ready for it. And therefore, I don't crash. I'm not in a car. My insurance rates to go up. Is that what people with half a brain in this country have to do? Do they have to just think okay, the average American is a moron. I don't want to think that way, but I'm always thinking like, and it's really the election. The last time that Trump got elected, when Trump won the election, I'm just like, oh, the average American is an idiot. They're above average. America's above.
That's what I thought
they
too.
elected
Yeah.
Trump. They saw through the crap, and then when Biden got elected, I'm just like, okay, well, the corruption is higher than I thought. So the average American is above the line. The corruption line is like below or above, you know. You know what I'm trying
but
to say,
the elites are consistently trying to convince us of insane ideas. Still, it's like they haven't realized that the reason Trump's popular is because people are smarter than they think. They still think we're stuck in an era before the internet and people can do their own research. So I'm going to pivot real quick. I'm going to pivot to another story, which is we're going to go back to the sort of dark times. This is, this is what they're putting up in Sports Illustrated. One of their great cover models right now is Gayle King, who's like nearly 70, I think. Is Oprah's buddy, Gayle King. And then they got this chick who's supposedly a plus size model, which
sorry, excuse me for a second. I gotta go throw up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, what are they thinking? They're trying to convince us that this is sexy. That this is he actually left. They're trying to convince us this is sexy. They're trying to convince us that this is beautiful. And it's shocking to me that they think that it'll work. You know, it's shocking to me that they actually think they can convince people. And here's the thing. It's like, yeah, there are some people who are, you know, really obese and they're still pretty active, you know, like somebody like Chris Farley. I think that's really the rare exception as opposed to the rule. Typically, you want to look slim, you want to look fit, and that's an indication that you are in fact fit, that you are in fact athletic. Some people who are very slim and fit are not athletic at all, and they're very unhealthy, and they eat junk food, and they have terrible fitness. But for the most part, looking thin, looking fit, having good musculature. Are you actually throwing up, Kurt?
No, I just had to take an LGBTQP.
Ah, okay, fair enough. And drink some alcohol, apparently.
Yeah, I ran out of watered wine, so I'm going straight to wine. Grandpa's old cold medicine.
You can actually hear the cork come out.
Yeah, it's like open up my mouth.
Anyway,
out there, my mouth is capable of doing a great many things.
Well, unfortunately, this is what Sports Illustrated drives us to, folks. It drives us all to drink because
it's going to look much better in a second here, guys.
I guess the only justification that I can think of for this is like if you go on Instagram, you basically can scroll through, like if you see a hot chick on there and it just says like, you can actually click down, it'll give you recommendations for similar accounts. And you could just basically go through hot chick after hot chick after hot chick on Instagram. And it's better than most of the stuff that you would have seen in Sports Illustrated for, forever, because these girls really have figured out how to take sexy pictures of themselves to such a degree that it's like borderline pornography at this point. And so you're getting like the sexiest women imaginable online without any kind of, without having to be subscribed to Sports Illustrated or having to be involved in any kind of like financial agreement with any of these companies. I guess you are sub ads if you're on Instagram or whatever, but it's just out there. People are posting, beautiful women are posting for free sexy images of them all the time. Then you got like OnlyFans if you want to interact with these women, and they post pornographic content and everything.
That print, and especially Sports Illustrated, which is basically like G-rated pornography, is antiquated.
It's antiquated. There's not a good audience for that anymore. They should probably just go away. But instead, what do? They go, oh, all press is good press. Let's post something provocative.
In desperation, they appeal to desperation.
Yeah, and they basically are saying, look, something that's obviously not true. They're saying, look, the opposite of what people tend to find beautiful, we're saying is beautiful. And it's such a stupid thing to say that it makes the news, and people like us cover it. and then they think it's going to help their bottom line. I don't really think it will help their bottom line. You know what I mean? It's like selling somebody rotten steak, right? It's like you have like a steak seller who's like let's say there's a brand of steak that's very famous, and it's considered the most delicious steak on the planet. And then there's a few other companies that pop up and they start selling steak that's just as good, maybe even better for cheaper price. And they go, oh, how do we compete against this? Oh, everybody's got this beautiful steak. Everybody can have this delicious steak for cheap. We're not making very much money. What do we do? Let's sell steak with maggots in it. That'll be a great seller. And they go, this is really the new delicious steak. Everybody loves this steak. And some people are actually buying it. And they go, okay, well, yeah, maybe it's good. And they cut it open. They go, oh, this doesn't taste very good, though. And they're like, no, but that taste that you're tasting right now, that's good. That's actually good. What you used to taste is terrible. The taste of maggots, that's actually good. Okay, like who's going to believe that? Who's going to believe that? I'm sure there are some people. There are some people that are gullible enough, they're indoctrinated enough, they want to believe it, so they do. But for the most part, I mean, look, do some guys find obese women sexy and attractive? Yeah, of course. I mean, you got some kind of guys who are like fetishists, whatever.
Sure.
But for the most part, God bless them, yeah. But for the most part, the reality is that we know what men find attractive, and I don't know why I don't know why they keep trying to push this. I don't get it. I don't get why they think this is going to work. Do you? I mean, I guess it's
somebody's
just that
funding it,
trying to be
They're
provocative.
The money.
I just don't think it's a strategy worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be much better if they pivoted in a different way, figured something else out. Because this is the least creative way of doing it, right? They're saying, oh, let's just do the opposite of what people know is true. That's not creative. That's not smart. That's not clever. That's just weak.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked about this before off of the show. And my theory is that it's just you've got these money people. You've got like these corporations and stuff. They just deal in money. They don't deal in culture necessarily. And so then they're looking to, they're probably older guys. They're probably like our age or even older, God forbid, on their deathbeds. And then you have these.
Is that your chair making all that noise?
No, it's probably the fan.
Ah, the fan. Okay, we're good.
Shut it off.
You're good. You're good. Keep talking.
And so they hire these guys out of school, out of colleges. It's like, oh yeah, I'll hire this person. I went to blah 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 college. I'll hire somebody out of there. But it's not the same place they went to college. They're just activists. They're not capitalists. They don't care about money. They don't care about making a profit. They don't care about the company or anything other than promoting the message. So these activists are just like, you know what? This is what the young folks want, like me. But the young folks aren't like them. The young folks are normal people. The greater audience at large will always be normal people. So the money people that don't know what the people want defer to the activists, and the activists just like agenda. And then we have corporations losing millions or billions of dollars. And then eventually there will be a reckoning, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
All right, so Bear376 jumped in with 10 pounds, and he writes, before I went to war the first time I went to war, he said, enemy fires, then duck. You fire, then they duck. The Americans fire, and then everyone ducks. Thank God we taught you aiming. I don't quite understand the comment. I presume this is about the war in Ukraine. Kurt, you want to try to decode this for me?
Before I went to war, he said, I'm guessing his superior in the army, enemy fires, then duck. You fire, then they duck.
It sounds like a poem. Is this a famous
poem? Maybe
people can maybe comment in the comment section.
Ducks. Thank God we taught you aiming. It might be a famous quote from a poem. I never went to college, which is why I have no debt.
I did go to college. I have tons of debt, and I also don't know.
I'm as smart as him, so apparently, true. At least I was good at being.
It's accurate.
But I the only thing I can derive from that statement was that the Americans are the scariest. That's what it seemed like to me. Everybody ducks when the Americans fire, so it's just sort of like if we throw our support behind a certain group, that will dissuade them from acting, but obviously that's not the case. I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna pivot to another story. This is a story that is pertinent to you and I, Kurt, because you and I both attended together, went once in Hawaii to a Red Lobster. And
I paid, you didn't put out, so it was a horrible evening.
A couple of buddies of yours wanted to go there, I believe. So we all went together. It was a lovely evening.
Well, what's going on?
Yeah, it was your guys. You remember your guys that went to Georgia?
Oh, Uncle Albert and AJ went to Red Lobster with you, me, Uncle Albert, and AJ.
Yes.
God damn it! See, Chris is so removed from the normal sort of like rank and file citizenry that he can't tell a Red Lobster from an Outback Steakhouse from anything really. It was an Outback Steakhouse.
It was an Outback.
It actually is failing at a much more rapid rate than Red Lobster.
Is that true? Okay, so
now they're in the Red Lobster. Actually,
I will say the one place that's
there's
like
no cheddar
that,
with those baked biscuits.
I have been to Red Lobster. That
Red Lobster that we went to in Hawaii is closed now. No, sorry. You got me going.
That Outback Steakhouse. Yeah. Well, I've been to Red Lobster. I think there's a Red Lobster on the way to Palm Springs if you're coming out of LA. And I think we stopped by there once, me and my ex, and grabbed some Red Lobster. So I have been to Red Lobster, and I did go to Outback Steakhouse with you. But the one place that's like this,
myself.
The one place that's like this that I actually like is called Cheesecake Factory.
You and I went there. Was it your first time in Hawaii?
Yes.
Everything was closed because of like COVID crap, and you and your ex were there, and it was late. We walked down Waikiki. We just kept walking and walking, looking for a proper place to have dinner, and we wound up at Cheesecake Factory. Good old Cheesecake Factory.
But you know what? I've been to Cheesecake Factory with a friend of mine in LA. I've been to Cheesecake Factory. I've been to Cheesecake Factory with a few random people here and there.
Which sounds like a gay porn company, but it's not.
And it's always good. I always think Cheesecake Factory is good. So I don't know what they're doing over at Cheesecake Factory, but it seems like the kind of, I think that these restaurants get a bad rap because they're all kind of like,
it's corporate, man. You got to eat local. You got to eat squash.
It's not about it being corporate. I think it's about it being, I don't think because there's so many of these restaurants, I don't think the quality control can always be as high as they want. So you go into some Red Lobsters, it's probably amazing. You go to other Red Lobsters, probably not so good. And I don't remember Red Lobster being particularly bad. I don't remember Outback Steakhouse being bad. But I always remember Cheesecake Factory being surprisingly good because these kinds of sit-down restaurants, what do they call it? Fast casual restaurants. Because these fast casual restaurants tend to have a bad reputation for being low quality. What? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I'm always surprised by Cheesecake Factory. Why is Red Lobster failing? I don't know. The only reason I put it up here is because I thought that's where Kurt and I went in Hawaii that one time, but it was Outback. So now I just look stupid.
You would think it would be thriving because people hear Red Lobster, they assume it's some sort of a communist joint. And they see the prices, they're just like, this is not a communist joint. But the Cheddar Bay biscuits are free. So,
Is that right? Well, maybe we should start a petition. Keep Red Lobster going. I don't know. I've always thought that Red Lobster, like lobster's supposed to be like a high end kind of thing, right? And they were able to do it cheaply. So you'd think that would be a really good combination, right? Something that people perceive to be a really like a luxury for cheap. But apparently that didn't work. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I guess I don't go to Red Lobster enough to know. Or maybe that's why. I never went to Red Lobster.
I don't think it's probably not so much a
quality
critique
problem
on like the establishments themselves. It's probably a case of like too much expansion or expanding into markets they should have been in, things like that. Like the corporate, like the nuance of sort of like the corporate marketing where a lot of times they'll get too big too quick. It happens with a lot of places. So, and I think that it really comes down to, this is happening. This is not unique to Red Lobster. Like we were talking about it, the place you confused it with, Outback Steakhouse. Did I lose you? Did you fall asleep?
No, I'm just thinking.
So it's like a lot of these places are suffering. Like even in the South, you have Waffle House. There's this giant enterprise of Waffle Houses. They're closing down. A lot of these places are closing down. And it has to do just with inflation. It has to do with the economy at large. It's not a
You're right.
Red
You're right. They
Lobster
don't have the
problem.
margins.
It's a Joe Biden problem. It's a Joe Biden America problem that hopefully we will solve within the year.
Well, R.I.P. Red Lobster. We will miss you.
No. The lobster will rise again. It will claw itself out of bankruptcy.
claw itself back. Listen, I don't really have anything else to say. We're out of news stories. But I will try to think of something on the spot here. What have I been doing? Because I've been sick. I've been trying to get some work done, but I've got a lot of lethargy. So I ended up watching a lot of Jeopardy lately. Don't ask me why Jeopardy. I mentioned that in the last episode. But I started watching Jeopardy Masters. And let me just tell you, those questions are insane. How do these people know? Like regular Jeopardy, I do kind of okay. Like I probably, maybe
Jeopardy Masters was a humbling experience. I watched it myself, and I was just like, there's actually a moment where I was watching with my mother, because I don't actually watch a lot of television myself, because I'm not yet an elderly person on Social Security, so I don't just sit around watching TV all day. And, oh, yes. But my mother and I were watching it, and they had some question about something, and they had Ike, IKE in quotations, like, and Ike said this or that or the other, and the question was in reference to Eisenhower. And then the question was correctly answered by the Masters contestant. And I turned to my mother and I was just like, I thought there was a question about Ike Turner. And she was like, me too. I was just like, I know about spousal abuse and soul music. Like, I got this. Like, what classic hit from Tina Turner is this referencing? And they're just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. We were both like, we're just like, yeah, we're out of our league on this one.
I will say,
I'm alienating the audience with these questions, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched an entire segment. They have Jeopardy, then Double Jeopardy, then they have the final clue, whatever. And the first section of the first episode of this Masters show that I watched, I got literally 2 answers correct. One was about the director John Ford, and I know that because that's the particular industry I'm in. And then the other question was the word Wainwright, which means like somebody who fixes or manufactures wagons in the olden days.
Yeah,
Wainwright.
Sure, I knew that.
I don't know why I know what a Wainwright is, but I knew what a Wainwright is. Okay. The John Ford one makes more sense. But I'm like, in an entire Jeopardy Masters thing, I only get 2 dang. I felt so humiliated watching because I'm pretty decent at trivia.
I'm afraid you're not a nerd.
Not nerdy enough. Maybe just not intelligent enough. But here's the thing. Like, this is what I wrote to my brother. I said, I just watched one round of Jeopardy Masters. Honestly, the questions are so obscure. It's kind of stupid. Like, these are not general knowledge questions. These are facts that are extremely specific to particular industries or hobbies, etc. It's an absurd level of trivia knowledge, which I don't think is even useful. You're basically lucky if you win just by getting questions in areas you know. I do not think that this is the best version of Jeopardy, and I stand by that.
This is cope. You and your brother both consider yourself intellectuals. You're just like watching. Like, oh yes, I will watch the Jeopardy Masters, and you and Humble just like, these questions are stupid. Yes. You and John are just like, these questions are, nobody can answer these questions. These are like, inside baseball questions. Just like,
well, I do stand by that. John, I do stand by that. But yes, there is a nice helping of copium in that.
You want to watch Celebrity Jeopardy for like a big boy.
I do. I would much. I prefer Celebrity Jeopardy because I win every time. Celebrity Jeopardy. I call it stupid people Jeopardy.
And you can justify the fact that you want to be a celebrity. Like theoretically, I won Celebrity Jeopardy. I should be a celebrity. I'm much smarter than these guys.
I'm kind of famous vaguely.
Yeah.
You know who needs to go on Celebrity Jeopardy?
I should have been Spider-Man.
You know who should go on Celebrity Jeopardy is Gorka, because Gorka is a very high IQ guy. His like, yeah, well, his vocabulary is massive. Like he's got this massive vocabulary, which is far superior to my own, and I have a decent vocabulary. So I think he could do well. Like he knows a lot about a lot of stuff, and he's obviously like an expert on a few, very, very important issues.
Can we get through one episode without you shining Sebastian Gorka's shoes? It's getting embarrassing at this point. I know he's a giant man, and we should all fear him because he could squash us like bugs. But seriously, have some pride.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because I was thinking Celebrity Jeopardy. Celebrity Jeopardy. The weird thing is, like, the questions are all, pretty easy. Not all. I mean, occasionally you do get a tough question in Celebrity Jeopardy. But the really cool thing is, every once in a while you get a celebrity who's like genuinely smart. And what'll happen is, you got your three contestants.
It's a blowout.
And it's like it's insane. Like one of the contestants will have like $40,000 and the other two will have like negative $1,000.
It looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
It does. It's like a massacre. It's like a massacre. It's hilarious. So I think with Celebrity Jeopardy, they should probably have a few, like, they tend to, at least the ones that I saw, a few like really high IQ folks who really know their stuff. And I think Gorka would clean up on that. I would love to do it myself, but I don't think I'm quite famous enough. But I'll get there. I think
my mother and I were watching the the Masters Jeopardy, or maybe I was talking about with you. Be like, okay, who are the people that sign up for Celebrity Jeopardy?
Oh, we were talking about
the people with it was us. They have failing careers, or they're like, I want to be on Jeopardy. So it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen because you got this celebrity who's just like, you know what? The only reason I ever wanted to be an actor or a musician was to get onto Jeopardy. This was like, if I get on Celebrity Jeopardy, I will kill. And these other people are the last album didn't do so great. We should get you on Jeopardy. So you got Kesha and you got like Cillian Murphy, and it's just a slaughter.
Right. No, I think that you're right. There's the guys whose agents are like, oh, this could help your career. You should totally do Celebrity Jeopardy. They're like, okay, and they just get obliterated because they're not
Celebrity box Mike Tyson. Go on, get out there.
Exactly. And then you got these other people that are like, okay, I'm a celebrity. Yeah. I love Jeopardy. I'm really good at trivia. I should totally do this. And those folks, and I do think they kind of want to show the rest of Hollywood, like, look, guys, I'm not just like a dopey actor like the rest of them. I'm actually kind of smart. And they go on Jeopardy, and it's like, because the questions are not like the level of normal Jeopardy, they look
human intelligence,
geniuses. They look great.
See, what I want to see with like these Celebrity Jeopardies like that.
We should get paid by Jeopardy. We're promoting the hell out of Jeopardy right now.
Themselves intellectuals, like these smug pricks like George Clooney. I effing hate George Clooney. Get George Clooney out there. He always carries himself with these airs of like, oh, I'm such a smart guy. Like, and we know
Get De Niro out there.
Oh yeah, and with this current marketplace too, like we have like Bradley Cooper. All these guys are hoarding themselves out for
Baby Bell
products.
You snack, Baby Bell.
They're all doing. Those are rotting in my fridge as we speak. I should really throw them out.
I just bought these yesterday.
Sorry, is that a sponsor?
It is now.
Well, it was. I just anti-sponsored them. But like, we have these celebrities just like, oh, like Brad Pitt saying like these countries that are under socialism, like, they're fine. Everything's fine in those countries. Like, I give Brad Pitt a pass because he never advertised himself as a smart guy. He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't think he's the brightest guy. But like George Clooney is sort of like, oh yeah, like does an acceptance speech. That he's like, we're a little bit smarter out here in Hollywood than most people. They should get in line and learn. He's basically doing our local politician, what's her face?
Mazie Hirono.
Mazie Hirono, yeah. he's in the Mesa Hirano role, which is like, well, if people just realize how smart we are and just let us control everything, everything will be fine. Ha ha ha. So get George Clooney on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Right.
You know, but it'll probably
prove it, Clooney.
It'll probably be rigged. Like the forthcoming Biden debate, if it even happens.
I do have to say, like, the people who are on the Masters show, they are definitely high IQ people. It's not just
socially awkward. Yeah, I agree.
It's not just that they have like some like weird ability to train in trivia and know this stuff. Like, they're talking about their hobbies and stuff, and it's like weird. You know, like, their hobbies are like what, the only people who would do these hobbies are like insanely high IQ people. So there is a sort of category of people that's so high IQ. It's like,
what are you talking about? Like ships
their
and
lives
bottles?
are weird. No, like other intellectual pursuits that most people would find incredibly boring.
Excuse me.
But you know, they need to exercise their brain, so they do these weird games and stuff. What one guy, I think he's like the reigning champion of Jeopardy. He's like some kind of ridiculous genius. He's become one of the best bridge players in America.
Bridge?
I don't know. Yeah,
just getting ahead of the senior home. Once I get in there, once I get into the Masters, the seniors Masters bridge.
It wasn't good enough that he's the best Jeopardy guy. He needs to be the best bridge guy too. For some reason, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true in a lot of industries as well. You have these people that are just sort of like driven to excel, which is what will always skew the numbers in terms of things like CEOs of major companies that are women or that are this or that or the other. Just like you don't seem to realize these people are outliers and they're psychos. Like these guys like Elon Musk, their lives are around running these businesses and things. Just like the idea that you want to put somebody in charge that wants to have a normal life, wants to have like kids and like a picket fence and blah, blah, blah. Like that doesn't exist at the highest level. It's all
Elon Musk has kids.
Does he?
Yeah.
Are they robots?
Some of them.
I never hear about Elon Musk's kids. Are they made of?
They have robot names. They have the robot names. Yeah, look it up. We'll do a bit on it at some point. Okay. Yeah, no. My goal in life has clearly been to be mediocre at everything. So, you know, I had a little tiny
mission
bit
accomplished.
of success, right? Yeah, I had a little bit of success on YouTube. I started a secondary and a tertiary channel,
He's
both
the
of which
Army
failed.
Hammer of politics. He was born beautiful, and he just like stumbled every step of the way, eating human flesh. I think the most successful thing I do is probably Gorka's show, Make Movies Great Again, and now we have a failed live stream. So yeah, everything seems to be going perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. This is my best show ever.
Yeah, true that.
We finally got Jason out of the equation, cleared out the riffraff, and now
it's just us.
Onward and upward. It's just us.
Can I just say, watching Gladiator, there was one thing I didn't mention.
I love how you go from a gay innuendo straight into Gladiator.
because it's about another sexually perverse weird thing.
Do you like movies with gladiators in them?
No. You triggered something in my head because it was the one thing I didn't say in my review, in the review that we did, which is going to air tomorrow. But the one thing I did not say in that review. So if you want to see Make Movies Great Again, the Gladiator review, that's going to be airing tomorrow on Salem News, Salem Radio Network, and then also on Rumble. But there is this whole sort of like thing where I think his name's Commodus is attracted to his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do that obviously to make him creepy and crazy and insane, of course. But the weird thing about that is I watched some kind of like news thing or documentary, maybe I read an article, I can't remember, but I read about this where like there are some people in the world that are attracted to siblings, which I think to most of us with siblings seems like completely insane. Like it's like not, it doesn't even seem possible. Like it doesn't seem possible.
There you go, everybody. Jason, you're advocating homeschooling. That's what's going to happen.
No, but that's the funny thing, right? That's the interesting thing.
When there's only one cheerleader out there, that's all you got to work with, buddy.
No. But this is the interesting thing about they've studied this. They've looked at it like brother sister couples and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was that if you are raised in the same household, it's basically impossible to be attracted to your siblings. But if you're raised apart, you can be attracted to your siblings. So it's basically it's almost entirely environmental, that attraction. So what they found is the siblings that tend to fall in love and want to be together in life, that they found that the cases are always siblings that were raised apart. Like they didn't know each other existed and they met later in life. And then they also find that if it's an adopted sibling, even if it's not blood related, you will not be attracted to that person as you grow older. There's something about growing up with the person where you're not physically attracted to them.
If there's an adopted sibling,
there's the alcohol.
Be attracted to them. Wait,
an adopted sibling?
If there's an adopted sibling, you won't be attracted to them, even if you're raised with them.
But it's if you're raised with somebody, whether it's a cousin or somebody who's adopted.
Sibling, you won't be attracted. Okay.
You won't be attracted to anyone that.
So what Chris is saying is marriage is a lie. Familiarity breeds contempt, and
no, it has to do with when you're a child. I think it has to do from like childhood to adulthood. You know, those years, those formative years. Yeah.
Okay. When cement's still
I
wet.
think that's. I believe that's what I heard in the thing. So when I'm watching, and I think I saw that or read about that before I saw the Gladiator. So I'm watching Gladiator, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I know that the writers, because even back, I was in college when Gladiator came out, and I was like studying film and stuff. And I was thinking, I understand what the writers are trying to do here. They're trying to make this guy so detestable that he's just repugnant. He's just repellent. Nobody even wants to look at him on screen. He's so creepy and weird and crazy. But like, I think they almost went too far. I think
it's a little cartoonish. I mean,
it becomes cartoonish. Yeah.
Once you cast Joaquin Phoenix, your job is pretty much done.
I mean, that was. I mean, if you don't want to watch my review of it, that was the main problem that I had with the film, is that Russell Crowe's a bit of a Mary Sue, and Joaquin Phoenix is really like a caricature of a villain. I mean, he's such a villain, and there's no character arcs to anybody. It's just they're on this collision course the entire movie.
Mel Gibson is like, hold my beer. He did The Patriot. I think maybe the same year, if not the next year.
I don't really remember The Patriot, but I think that if you have I don't remember The Patriot very well. I should watch that again. Actually, I remember that being a pretty good film.
Yeah, you don't really need to. The best thing about The Patriot is the villain. The villain in that movie, I think he was the father of the blonde boy in the Harry Potter movies.
Okay.
But anyway, he's a great actor. He's been around a long time. He goes all the way back to the early '90s and in Highland of the series, and he's a character actor, but he's like a handsome guy, but he has kind of like a sinister look. So he's always playing like the scientist, or like
because his eyes are a little beady.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I do see.
He looks a rat-like
human. You actually, Chris. but no, the bad guy from The Patriot is great, but he's sort of on the same level as like Commodus from Gladiator, where he's just like the fork
he's
tongue
too
coming
bad.
out.
He's too evil.
He's like so evil.
Yeah.
He's
like caricature so of evil. Yeah,
but
you want some kind of character arc with. You want a character arc with either the hero or the villain, or you need some kind of redemption character. You need something that changes throughout the picture. For me, it can't just be good guy versus bad guy. Good guy wins. Like, it's too simplistic. That's too boring. Like, to me, that's boring. You can do that if you have good enough characters. Did they have good enough characters in Gladiator? Well, you'll find out if you watch the show tomorrow. Also, next week, guess what we're doing next week? You might find this interesting, Kurt. Lethal Weapon 2. Speaking of Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Lethal Weapon 2. Florida Sheepdog 1 writes, living with a sibling It's like a long-term wife. First lust, love, then can't stand to hear her breathe. That is a weird
Florida
comment,
sheepdog
very
will be
funny.
out in 5 to 10 years.
I know. I think maybe with the sibling, you might miss the lust part of it, presumably, unless you're Joe Biden.
Oh, sure, just take all the fun out of life.
You know what's weird is that, and I don't think gets enough attention really, is that Hunter Biden ended up marrying his dead brother's wife. Like, how do people not talk about that?
Well, I mean,
is it just
Hunter
that there's a
Biden-
certain level of weird and gross that it's just too much for people, and they're just like, I don't know.
I'm going to
what
give
the
Hunter
heck's going
Biden a
on here.
pass on this
Mhm.
because you see this with like military people, where like the husband dies overseas, the friend comes back,
Yeah.
and they support each other through the grief, and they sort of like end up banging at some point.
Nope.
That was
Nope.
probably wasn't the most poetic way I could have put that.
Nope. No pass. No pass. That's
I'm
gross
giving
and
them a
weird.
pass because I love our servicemen and our military people. Apparently, Chris doesn't feel the same way. So, I mean, yeah, take it as you will.
That is just weird and gross.
Chris hates the armed forces.
By the way, somebody posted, and I had to
Come back
fact check
to
this, and so I posted this with simply the word "true," because I did the fact check on it. But it is something I didn't know until they posted it. Barack Obama grew up with a transgender nanny in Indonesia, where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about that?
Of course I did. I know everything.
You're drunk. All right, we're moving on. So
don't move on. What do
look,
you have to say about that? You just
look,
want
I think this explains a lot about where the left has shifted. Right? It's kind of a weird coincidence, right? When Barack Obama was in office, transgender thing wasn't even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trump got in. Now we got Biden. Transgender thing is a big deal now. But who controls Biden? You know, I think most people think Obama has at least some control over Biden. And the whole country has shifted toward this transgender insanity. And it turns out that his beloved nanny was a transgender dude. Something's going on there. Something's going on. I'm gonna investigate this. I'm gonna do a video. This is weird.
I mean, is that even true? I mean,
it's true.
The leftists love revisionist history. It's like,
revisionist is the word that he's trying to say, folks.
Revisionist. What did I say?
I'm pretty sure you said originist.
No, I'm pretty sure I didn't. I have an accent. Don't
you guys can rewind
search my culture.
Yeah.
Don't need to rewind. I'm currently wind. But yeah, it could just be like them trying to prop up Obama further. Like, remember Obama?
I looked it up.
Awesome
I didn't do an
in-depth.
I didn't do an in-depth review, but I looked it up, and
what prompted it?
He had somebody posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
They just posted. I didn't know that Obama had a transgender nanny. I was like, I didn't either. So I looked it up. I'm like, holy crap, true. So that's an interesting fact. All right, I think we're done for the day. I was actually intending to end 19 minutes ago, but you know what? I just felt like chatting. It's a shame what happened to Jason, but we can't win them all. Technical difficulties.
I'm sure curious to find out what happened to Jason. I guess he's just wasn't working.
I tried to call him, but he didn't pick up. So, I guess we'll see you later. But anyway, that's it for us. We will see you guys on Monday of next week. Until then, remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. No. You know what it is? It's that they know so much that is not so. And I'm a good actor, right?
Yeah, you're going for the full De Niro on that one. Like, what are you doing? Naturalistic.
Yeah. That's embodying. Yeah. All right. Good night, guys. We'll see you soon.